I got home early on a Friday afternoon, the usual quiet settling around the house in Maplewood, a small town outside London. I wasn't expecting much, just the usual weekend ahead, but as I approached our bedroom door, I caught Amy's voice on the phone. The door was slightly ajar and her words drifted out into the hallway. "He never gets jealous," she said, her tone a mix of frustration and disbelief. Like, never. Sometimes I wonder if he even cares. I froze in the doorway. Then I caught another voice, a sharp, confident one, coming through on speaker. "You really think it'll work? Just make him a little jealous so he remembers what he's got," the girl said. "Trust me, one night of you getting attention from someone else and he'll be all over you." Amy laughed nervously. "I don't know if I could pull it off." "You totally could. We'll help you tomorrow night. The Crown and Anchor. Wear that new dress. We'll set everything up." I backed away quietly, heart sinking. Melissa, that was the name I'd heard. Loud, pushy, and clearly the ringleader in Amy's circle of friends. I went to the kitchen trying to process what I'd just heard. 10 minutes later, Amy emerged, looking startled to see me. Her hair was pulled back loosely, and she wore a simple blouse paired with jeans, nothing like the dress she'd mentioned. But there was a nervous edge to her smile. "Oh, I didn't hear you come in," she said, fidgeting with a silver bracelet on her wrist. "Just got here," I replied, watching her carefully. "How was your day?" "Good," she said quickly. "Actually, the girls want to go out tomorrow night. The Crown and Anchor. Want to come?" I nodded slowly. "Sure, sounds fun." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. That night, lying in bed, I kept replaying the conversation. Amy was planning to make me jealous. Her friends were setting it up, and she thought this was some clever way to remind me what I had. I wondered if this was the start of a game I didn't want to play, or worse, had already lost. The next evening, Amy took forever to get ready. When she finally came out, she was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, sleek and fitted, hugging her curves just enough to be elegant, but with a hint of daring. Her heels clicked softly on the wooden floor, and her makeup was definitely heavier than usual. Smoky eyes, a bold red lip. Her phone buzzed constantly, and I caught a glimpse of messages from her friends, full of flames and quick encouragements. "You look stunning," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Thanks," she said, distracted, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. We drove to the Crown and Anchor in near silence. Amy's leg bounced nervously the whole way. When we arrived, her friends, Melissa, Jenna, and Whitney, were already there, clustered near the rooftop railing with their drinks. Melissa waved us over like a ringleader spotting her circus. "There you are. We've got a table," she said, eyes sparkling with mischief. The three women barely glanced at me, their attention glued to Amy. I felt like the odd one out. "I'll grab the drinks," I said. "Amy, your usual?" Melissa jumped in. "I'll come with you. Need a top-up?" Her smile was a little too eager. At the bar, I ordered 2 G&Ts and watched the group from the corner of my eye. Amy was surrounded, laughing a little too loudly, her eyes flicking toward a man standing alone by the window, scrolling on his phone. I couldn't help but notice her hand brush his arm when he looked up, smiling. Then Roger arrived, my brother and the only sane person in this circus. "Hey, didn't expect you here," he said, sliding beside me. "Last-minute thing," I answered, eyes never leaving Amy. Roger followed my gaze. "Is she—" "Yeah," I said quietly. We watched as Amy leaned in, hand lingering on the man's forearm. The guy, Trevor, as I'd learned later, was fully engaged now. His hand rested briefly on the small of her back. I felt something twist deep inside. Melissa and the others were watching me more than Amy, their eyes sharp and calculating. "Jealousy test," Roger muttered, grim. I didn't say anything. Instead, I finished my drink, stood up, and walked over. The moment I extended my hand to Trevor and said, "I'm Brandon, Amy's husband," the look on Amy's face froze everything in place. This was no game anymore. This was the beginning of the end. I stood there, hand outstretched, watching Trevor's confused expression as he shook it. "Brandon, nice to meet you," I said, my voice calm but firm. Amy's smile flickered, like a candle struggling against a gust of wind. I could see the panic creeping in behind her eyes. "Look," I continued, "I can see what's going on here, and honestly, I'm not interested in playing whatever game this is." Amy opened her mouth, then closed it. "Game?" she echoed, like she couldn't believe I had the nerve. I didn't break eye contact with Trevor. "She's all yours, mate. Good luck with this one." Amy's face drained of color. Her hand, which had been resting lightly on Trevor's arm, suddenly dropped to her side. The confident woman I'd seen an hour ago was gone, replaced by someone fragile, almost unrecognizable. Turning to Amy, I added, "When you're done here, your friends can give you a lift home. I'm leaving." "Wait, what?" she stammered, grabbing my arm weakly. "Brandon, I was just trying to make you jealous." I pulled my arm free. "Yeah, I figured that out about 45 minutes ago." Trevor took a step back, hands raised in surrender. "Mate, I didn't know she was, I wouldn't have—" "Not your fault," I said, already reaching for my wallet to pay the tab. Amy's grip on me was fading fast, her eyes wide, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "Enjoy your night," I said, and walked away without looking back. Behind me, I heard Melissa start to say something, but I kept moving, the sound of her voice fading into the background. The elevator ride down felt endless, each ding a reminder that the life I thought I had was crumbling. Outside, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Amy. Texts, calls, messages filled with desperation. "Brandon, where did you go? Answer me." "You're being ridiculous. I was just talking to someone." I didn't respond. Instead, I drove straight to my brother Roger's house in Selwood, the little town where life was simpler and problems were easier to face. By the time I pulled into the driveway, there were 11 messages waiting. I switched my phone to silent and stepped inside. Roger opened the door in his usual comfy sweatpants, holding a beer like a lifeline. "What's going on, mate? Can I crash here tonight?" "Yeah," I said, the weight of the day finally settling on me. "I need somewhere to think." Inside, his wife Kate paused their movie, concern etched on her face. I told them everything, the overheard phone call, the setup, the hour at the bar, the moment I shook Trevor's hand like a judge slamming down the gavel. Kate's jaw dropped. She planned this? To make you jealous on purpose? Her friends were in on it, I said, the bitterness tasting sour on my tongue. Roger shook his head slowly. "That's toxic, man. Melissa especially. Did you know she's been divorced twice?" I hadn't. But it made sense. She was the puppet master, the queen of chaos, spinning her own heartbreak into other people's lives. Kate added, "She's not even sorry for what she did. Just sorry you left." I stared at the ceiling later that night, the silence of the guest room pressing in on me. The look on Amy's face when I walked away, the smile falling apart, the panic replacing confidence, played like a broken record in my mind. Roger was asleep, but I couldn't find rest. I thought about the woman I married and the stranger she'd become. The lines between love and manipulation blurred until I didn't know which was which anymore. And somewhere in the back of my mind, a question gnawed away. How far would this go before I lost her completely? Sunday morning hit me like a cold splash of rain. I needed to grab some clothes from the flat, so I headed back to Maplewood, the streets still quiet and dripping from an early shower. Amy's car was in the driveway, and my heart hammered as I stepped inside. The place smelled faintly of lavender and something familiar. Her perfume, maybe. Amy was on the couch, eyes red-rimmed, hair messily pinned up with a few rebellious strands framing her face. She wore yesterday's clothes, a faded sweater and leggings, but the way her lips trembled told me she wasn't just tired. She jumped up the moment she saw me, her voice shaky. "Oh, thank God, I was worried." I cleared my throat. "I'm just here to get some things." "Things?" she repeated, eyes narrowing. "Clothes. Things." I grabbed my duffel bag from the bedroom, trying to keep my tone neutral. She followed me in, the tension thick enough to slice through. "Can we please talk about last night?" she asked, voice soft but desperate. "Sure," I said, zipping the bag halfway. "You want to start, or should I?" She crossed her arms, biting her lip. "I think you owe me an explanation for that scene at the bar." I stopped packing and turned to face her. "I owe you an explanation. You humiliated me in front of your friends and some bloke you were flirting with for an hour." "I wasn't flirting," she shot back. "We were just talking." I raised an eyebrow. "Do you touch all strangers the way you touched him? You had your hand on his arm at least a dozen times, Amy. You gave him your number on a napkin. How do you explain that?" She looked away, silent. "Were you watching me? I was 10 feet away. Everyone was watching," I said, voice low. She shook her head. "You're being paranoid." "Why did you do it?" I asked quietly. "Do what?" Her eyes darted around the room. "Make me jealous. Don't lie. I heard you on the phone with Melissa Friday afternoon." Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it. I pressed on. The new dress, the friend group waiting there, the convenient single bloke at the bar. "You planned this." "They just thought," she started. "They said I'd take you for granted," I finished. "So you decided to flirt with a stranger to test me." "It wasn't a test." "Then what was it?" She struggled, words failing her. I zipped the bag shut. "I'm going to stay at Rogers for a few days." "Wait, you're leaving me?" "Taking some space to think about what kind of marriage this is." Her eyes filled with tears. "Please don't go. You told me to leave last night, just not in those exact words." I walked out. Behind me, her sobs filled the quiet apartment. Sitting in my car, I caught a glimpse of Amy through the living room window. She was on her phone, probably calling Melissa, searching for the validation that I was the unreasonable one. At Rogers, I told him everything again, my voice raw. "She still doesn't get it," I said. "Give her time," Roger said. "Reality will sink in eventually." But he wasn't convinced. "People who don't want to see the truth will find every reason not to." My phone buzzed. A message from Glenn. "Dude, Amy just called me. Said you're being stubborn." I texted back. "What did you say?" I told her I saw the whole thing Friday. You have every right to be upset. She hung up on me. At least Glenn got it. For once, that felt like something solid in the wreckage. Monday evening, I decided to go back to the flat for more clothes. When I walked in, Amy was there, looking like she'd spent the day trying to erase the chaos from the weekend. Her hair was carefully styled, soft curls framing her face, and she wore a pale blue blouse that hugged her just right, paired with a skirt that hinted at the curves I'd once adored. The apartment was spotless, the faint scent of something homemade drifting from the kitchen. Soft jazz played quietly from the speaker on the shelf. "I'm glad you're here," she said, voice gentle but carrying an edge I couldn't ignore. "I made your favorite, roast chicken and those roasted potatoes you like." "I'm not staying for dinner," I said flatly, dropping my bag by the door. Her face fell. "Please, I want to talk." We sat at the dining table, plates between us, untouched. The silence was thick. "I've been thinking a lot these past couple of days," Amy began, eyes fixed on the table. "What happened Friday night? It wasn't good. I should have been more considerate of your feelings. I raised an eyebrow. More considerate of my feelings about you flirting with someone else? She looked up, defensive. I keep telling you I wasn't flirting. Here it is, I said, voice steady. What? You're apologizing for something vague while still denying what you actually did. Amy stood abruptly, pacing the room. Fine. Maybe I was flirting a little, but it was harmless. Harmless to who? I asked, leaning back in my chair. To anyone. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to me, I said quietly. She stopped pacing, crashing down into a chair. Only because you're insecure. I shook my head. I'm insecure? That's your explanation. Amy's eyes widened. I didn't mean... Say it, I said. You think I'm insecure because I don't want my wife flirting with other men. That's not what I meant. You're twisting my words. No, you literally just said it. She sat back down, defeated. Why did you do it, Amy? The real reason. The girls just said, I don't care what they said. Why did you do it? Because you never get jealous. You never seem to care. I don't get jealous because I trust you. I trusted you. Exactly. You just trust me without worrying about losing me. You wanted me to worry about losing you. I wanted you to show you'd fight for me by watching you flirt with someone else for an hour. It wasn't supposed to be an hour. You were supposed to step in after a few minutes. I stood up. So, this was a test. No. You tested me to see if I'd react the way you wanted, and when I didn't react on your timeline, you just kept going. I just wanted to feel wanted. She whispered, You are wanted, Amy. I choose you every day. I come home to you. I plan my life around you. But apparently that's not enough. You need drama, games, tests. That's not fair. What's not fair is setting me up to fail a test I didn't know I was taking. She started crying. I'm sorry. I shook my head. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry I didn't react the way you wanted. You're not sorry for what you actually did. What do you want from me? I want you to understand why what you did was wrong. And you don't. I do understand. Then explain it. You hurt me by talking to someone else. No. You disrespected our marriage by turning it into entertainment for your friends. You valued their approval over my dignity. She went quiet. I'm staying at Roger's for the rest of the week. You should use that time to figure out if you're actually sorry or just sorry you got caught. The room felt colder than ever. The next morning, on my way to Roger's, I stopped by the little cafe down the street, the Rusty Teapot, hoping a strong coffee might clear my head. As I waited for my order, a soft tap on my shoulder made me turn around. It was Jenna, one of Amy's friends, the quieter one, the one who never seemed to stir up trouble but always watched from the sidelines. Brandon, she said, voice low and a little shaky. Can we talk for a second? I glanced at my watch. I've got a minute. We moved into a quiet corner away from the hum of the cafe. Look, Jenna started, fidgeting with the strap of her bag. I know you probably hate all of us right now, and I get it. But I wanted you to know. I told Amy this was a bad idea. Did you? I asked, surprised. I did. Not that it matters now, but I did. Melissa was the one pushing it hard. She kept saying men need to be reminded what they have, that you were probably taking Amy for granted. Taking her for granted? I snorted. Anyone who's seen us together knows that isn't true, but Melissa, she's got issues. Did you know she's been divorced twice? Jenna nodded. Yeah, and from what I heard, she was the one playing games both times, testing her husbands, stirring up drama where none existed. That's not my problem, I said, feeling a flicker of anger. Jenna looked down. You're right, it's not. I just wanted you to know not all of us thought this was a good idea. She paused, glancing up. What you did Friday night, walking away like that. It took guts. I chuckled dryly. It took realizing my wife cared more about impressing you all than respecting me. Her eyes softened. Yeah, for what it's worth, Amy's a mess right now. She's been calling me and Whitney, crying, saying she doesn't know how to fix this. And she could start by being honest about what she did. She is being honest. She just doesn't think it was that bad. And that's the problem. I nodded slowly. Thanks for saying that, Jenna. I appreciate it. She gave a small, sad smile. I should have pushed back harder against Melissa. Maybe then things wouldn't have gotten so out of hand. Jenna left, and I took a long sip of my coffee, the bitterness matching the taste of betrayal lingering in my mouth. The cracks were showing in Amy's circle, and maybe, just maybe, that was a glimmer of hope. By Tuesday afternoon, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Amy. The message was almost polite, but underneath, it felt like a challenge. I talked to a therapist this morning, she wrote. She said couples often go through rough patches. I made us an appointment for Thursday at 4 p.m. Please say you'll come. I stared at the screen, feeling the weight of the week pressing down on me. She'd made the appointment without even asking me. Typical. You made an appointment without asking me, I replied bluntly. I'm trying to save our marriage by assuming I'm the one who needs fixing, she shot back. That's not what this is. What did you tell the therapist? Just that we had a fight about me being social. Being social, I typed, incredulous. That's how you described it. I told her about Friday night. Did you tell her your friends planned it? That's not relevant. It's completely relevant. Will you come to the session or not? Not until you can be honest about what actually happened. Fine, don't come. She'll probably tell me you're emotionally abusive anyway, she fired back. Leaving your wife at a bar? That's textbook abandonment. I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I stopped responding. Later that day, I needed to clear my head. I drove to Powell's City of Books, the massive bookstore downtown that always felt like a sanctuary. I wandered the aisles, eventually ending up in the relationship section. Ironic, isn't it? I was reading a book spine when a familiar voice startled me. I knew I'd find you here. I looked up. Amy stood at the end of the aisle, sweatpants and a hoodie, looking exhausted, like she'd been running on empty for days. Did you track my phone? I asked, voice sharp. We have location sharing on, she said. I needed to see you. Amy, this isn't appropriate. Why not? Trying to save my marriage. Customers nearby started to glance our way. I lowered my voice. Why? I asked. Embarrassed, I admitted. Now you know how I felt Friday night. A store employee approached cautiously. Is everything okay here? We're fine, Amy said quickly. The employee looked at me skeptical. Sir, we're fine. Thank you. He walked away reluctantly. I turned back to Amy. You need to leave. Not until you tell me what you want. I want you to understand what you did was a betrayal. I flirted with someone for a few minutes. That's not betrayal. You planned with your friends to humiliate me, to test me, to see if I'd fight for you. That's betrayal. Everyone does this kind of thing. No, they don't. She grabbed my arm. Please, just come home. I'll do whatever you want. I gently removed her hand. I don't want you to do whatever I want. I want you to understand why I left. I understand. Then explain it. You're hurt because I made you feel unimportant. Close, but not quite. Then what? I'm hurt because my wife cared more about impressing her friends than respecting me. And the fact you still don't fully see that tells me everything. She collapsed against the bookshelf, tears streaming down. I walked past her and out of the store, the pages of that relationship book fluttering in the draft behind me. I drove to Laurel Hill Park and sat on a weathered bench by the pond. the water's surface rippling gently in the afternoon breeze. Nearby, an elderly couple fed the ducks, their hands entwined like two puzzle pieces, fitting perfectly together despite the years. The woman caught my gaze and smiled warmly. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" I nodded, though the weight in my chest made it hard to feel the beauty. They shuffled closer, still holding hands. The man's eyes, sharp despite his age, studied me. "You look like a man carrying the weight of the world," he said softly. I managed a weak laugh. "Something like that." "Trouble at home?" the woman asked gently. I hesitated, then nodded. 52 years of marriage," the man said with a knowing look. You learn to recognize the look. 52 years. I couldn't imagine it. My marriage barely felt like it had lasted a lifetime, let alone half a century. "My first wife did things like that," he continued. "Tests, games, stirring up storms where there were none." "Your first wife?" "Left her after 3 years, married Margaret here 5 years later. Best decision I ever made." Margaret squeezed his hand. "Not all marriages can be saved. Some people don't want to change." "How do you know?" I asked quietly. Margaret smiled softly. "Ask yourself this. Does she make you better? Does she lift you up? Or does she tear you down and make you question yourself?" I thought about the past week, the gaslighting, the endless calls, the army of friends and family trying to make me feel like the villain. "She makes me question myself," I admitted. The old man nodded slowly. "Then you have your answer." They stood, still hand in hand, and walked away slowly, leaving me alone with the ducks and my thoughts. I sat there for another hour, watching the water and thinking about 52 years. The laughter, the tears, the battles won and lost. That night, my phone rang. It was Amy's sister, Nicole. "Brandon, it's Nicole." "Hey, let me guess. Amy sent you?" "No, she doesn't know I'm calling." I straightened up. "Okay, I'm listening." Nicole's voice lowered. "I was at the Crown and Anchor Friday night. Met friends at the other end of the bar. Saw everything. Heard Melissa coaching Amy all week before. I told Amy it was a stupid idea. She did it anyway. And I watched her the whole hour. She kept glancing back at you, waiting for you to react." "I know." "When you left, she panicked. Trevor took off as soon as he realized what was happening." "Good for him. I love my sister, but what she did was messed up, and the fact she still won't fully own it is worse." "Thank you for saying that. My mom's going to try to convince you this is all your fault. Don't listen to her." "I won't." "What are you going to do?" "I honestly don't know yet. Whatever you decide, I get it. You didn't deserve that." After we hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, the silence pressing in like a storm about to break. Thursday evening rolled around, and I texted Amy. "I'm coming over at 7. We need to talk." She replied immediately, "Thank God. I'll be here." When I arrived, Amy's face fell the moment she saw my duffel bag. "What's that for?" We sat on the couch, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I took a deep breath. "I've made a decision. I'm going to stay with Roger for another month. After that, I'll move back here, and you'll move out." Her eyes widened. "What?" "No, Brandon. We're separating for at least 6 months. I'm creating space for both of us to figure out if this marriage can work." "It can work. I'll stop hanging out with those friends. "It's not about your friends," I interrupted. "It's about your choices. I made one mistake. You made multiple choices. You chose to listen to them. You chose to plan this. You chose to go through with it. You chose to keep going for an hour. And you've chosen every day since then to minimize it." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "What do you want me to say? I'll say anything." "That's the problem. You'll say anything, but you won't mean it." "I do mean it. Amy, you tracked my phone and ambushed me at Powell's. You sent your friends to call me. You got your mother involved. You made a therapy appointment without asking me. None of that is the behavior of someone who understands what they did wrong. I was desperate. You were trying to control the narrative, she sobbed. I can't lose you. You should have thought about that before you tried to make me jealous. I laid out the terms. 6 months separated, individual therapy for both of us, space to figure out if trust could be rebuilt. After 6 months, she asked quietly, and then what? Then we'll see where we are. Maybe we work on getting back together. Maybe we don't. This is really happening. It is. I grabbed my duffel bag. At the door, she called my name. Brandon. Yeah, I really am sorry. I know you don't believe me, but I am. I hope that's true, for both our sakes. I walked out and didn't look back. A week later, I was unpacking boxes in Roger's guest room when my phone rang, an unknown number flashing on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Hey, man, it's Trevor. Got your number from Glenn. I sat down on the bed, surprised. Look, I just wanted to apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. I should have realized faster. She was wearing a wedding ring. She was counting on you not noticing until it was too late. For what it's worth, he continued. When you walked up and handed her back to me, that was the coldest thing I've ever seen. And she deserved it. Yeah, she did. You doing okay? Getting there. After we hung up, I looked down at my wedding ring. I'd been wearing it out of habit more than anything. Slowly, I took it off and placed it in the drawer. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through photos, dozens from our wedding day. Amy looked radiant in her gown, and I was smiling, happy. We both looked happy. Then I found a photo from 2 months ago, us hiking at Silver Falls. Amy was laughing at something I'd said, her hand in mine. We looked like people in love. What happened between then and now? Or maybe the better question was, what had been happening all along that I hadn't seen? I thought about the friends she kept. Melissa, bitter and divorced. Whitney, engaged but constantly fighting with her fiancé. Jenna, cycling through relationships like seasonal wardrobes. None of them had what we had, past tense. Somewhere along the way, Amy had started listening to people who didn't know how to maintain healthy relationships. Instead of recognizing their poison, she'd absorbed it. They'd convinced her that my trust was complacency, my security neglect, and my respect for her taking her for granted. Then she'd acted on it. I deleted the photos from my phone, not out of anger, but necessity. I needed to remember who she'd become, not who she used to be. Roger knocked on the door. Beer? Yeah, beer sounds good. We sat on his back porch as the sun set. He didn't ask questions. He just sat with me. They say time heals all wounds. I don't know if that's true, but I do know this. Some wounds you get by standing your ground are worth more than the comfort you'd get from backing down. The look on her face when her game backfired will stay with me forever. The smile collapsing, the panic replacing confidence. The moment she realized I wasn't playing. And you know what? I'm okay with that because I finally saw her clearly. What I saw wasn't someone who respected me. It was someone who needed to learn to. Maybe in 6 months she will have learned. Maybe she won't. Either way, I'll be fine because I learned something too. I learned what I'm worth. And I learned I'm not willing to settle for less. The door was right there. I used it. And I'd do it again. Just as I was starting to feel some semblance of peace, my phone buzzed late one evening with a message from an unknown number. Curiosity overpowered caution. Brandon, the text read, there's something you need to know about Amy. Meet me at the Fox and Hound tomorrow at 8. I stared at the message, heart pounding. The Fox and Hound was the kind of place where secrets were spilled over pints and whispered in shadowed corners. The next night I arrived early, the pub dimly lit with warm amber lights and the low murmur of evening chatter. I took a seat in the far corner, scanning the room. A woman slid into the seat opposite me, dark hair pulled back, eyes sharp and tired. "I'm Rachel," she said quietly. "Amy's been hiding something, more than just the games and the flirting." I leaned in. "What do you mean?" Rachel hesitated, then pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This was dropped at my door last week. It's from Melissa. She's been manipulating Amy for a long time, using her insecurities, pushing her to test you, to push boundaries. But it goes deeper. There are things Amy hasn't told you, things Melissa's been covering up." I unfolded the note, the handwriting familiar and chilling. "Be careful who you trust," it warned. "Not everyone has your best interests at heart." Rachel's eyes locked on mine. "There's more, Brandon. Things that could change everything. But you have to be ready to hear it." The pub noise faded as my mind raced. Was this another game, another layer of manipulation, or the truth I'd been blind to all along? I pocketed the note, feeling the weight of a new mystery settling over me. This wasn't over, not by a long shot.